questions correct.
What's that? Yeah. Oh, in the beginning. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm Jeff Colby, the Public Works Director. This is Lori Rizal, our Water and Wastewater Superintendent. Paul Chaffee is our IT Director. Thank you for all of this tech, Paul. This is great. Lori Sullivan is behind the board here. She's our Communications Director. And right on cue, Bob Rittenauer, our Town Administrator, is here. Spiro, our Chair of our Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, is here, or Water Resource Advisory Committee, I should say. And also Mark from the committee. We've got Robert B. Auer, we've got Abby, as well as Mike from Robert B. Auer here to answer more specific questions about the impact of construction and what the plan is as we head into this new construction season. We do want to have a couple of kind of overview slides that talk about the reasons why we're doing this project and get into a little more detail. We also have Jason from Wright Pierce, who is our RPR. So he's the project representative. Probably many of you will see him out on the project, walking around business to business, doing the inspections on the project. And so I think that's our key players. I'm going to walk around a little bit, if you don't mind. I think it's better to keep this a little more informal. Really, I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting up there in the chairs in front, so we'll try to answer questions this way. But as I said, we're going to cover why we're doing the sewer project, sewer phasing plan overall. One of the questions we get quite often is, what phase am I in? Now, most of you here today are probably in phase 1, but sometimes we do encounter people that are in phase 2, or how quickly are you doing phase 2, that type of thing. And then wastewater communication. So one thing we want to talk about every time we make one of these wastewater presentations is, how can you get more information? How can I be notified? We'll cover that as well. So Yarmouth has nitrogen-sensitive areas, as most of Cape Cod does. There are 3 of those for Yarmouth. I'll cover this information pretty quickly. This is just background information. But we have Lewis Bay, Parkers River, and Bass River. In this town's wastewater plan, the sewer construction is to address the nitrogen removal that DEP is mandating us to do within those watersheds. The system itself is going to be shown in phase 1, and it is a core piece of the program in order to do the backbone of the system, where all the other phases will connect into that. And this will allow for homeowners and businesses not to have their own mini wastewater treatment plants, which are innovative alternative septic systems. You've probably heard a little bit about that, but that is the alternative to doing a full town-wide wastewater plan, is to have everyone on a innovative alternative system, and that's too costly. We've done the analysis, and that's something that we're trying to avoid with our overall plan. So sewer phasing, again, I'll cover this very quickly. There is a map that's on the side over here if you'd like to take a closer look at that, because it's difficult to see on the screen here. But we're now engaged fully in phase 1 of our sewer plan. But there are 8 phases, and each phase is about 5 years. So it is a long plan. It is very costly, but also takes a lot of time to install all of the collection system that's needed to address all of that nitrogen issue I mentioned before. So drilling down a little bit deeper, because it's a $207 million project in phase 1 for our wastewater project, we need to break those off into manageable contracts. So we've broken it into 6 contracts. You can see that on the screen here. It's also on several of the plans around the room if you'd like to take a look at those. 2 of those contracts are actively being worked right now, and contract number 4 is going to be happening very shortly. And so that's really why we wanted to have this meeting as we restart construction on Route 28, make sure people are aware of the impacts where the contractors will be working within those zones. But it is important to note, so what's being worked currently is contract 3 and contract 2, but contract 5 and 6 are also going to be happening in the very near future, starting next year. So there's a significant amount of work that's happening, and we just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that work and how we can mitigate the impacts of all of that work. So I'll hand this over to Lori. She talks a little more specifically about the contracts.
All right. So contract one, oh, yeah. I'll do it. I guess I'll do it. Contract one is the wastewater treatment plant, which is going to be behind the water department in that big open field if you've been there. So that has little impact on travel, but it is important because it's the biggest part of the cost. And we just took bids for that project on Friday. So we hope to get that project going in early 2025, and it's a pretty long construction, so sometime in 2027. The thing that's important about this is that you can't connect to the sewer until the treatment plant is built. So that's why it's important to you guys. Though the sewer will be going in front of your businesses in the next couple of years, you can't actually connect until that's done because it would need somewhere to go. So that's why that's kind of more important. So the projects that are going on right now are contracts 2 and 3. So contract 2 is the yellow on this map, and 3 is the green. So it's Route 28, pretty much from Bass River to Parkers River and South Shore Drive. Contract 2 is being constructed by Robert B. Auer, and we have Abby and Mike from Robert Auer here who can help answer any questions. They're going to get back on Route 28 next week by Pond Street, and they're moving west, so towards here, towards Town Hall. And then the following week, they're going to be starting up again at McDonald's and going east. So they're going to be working towards each other. It'll be 2 separate detours at that time. And then they'll be working on Forest Road as well, but, well, there's a road closure there too. But that will be coming. That'll be going until they're done on Forest Road, and once they're done there, luckily they'll be done completely there. The other contract, contract 3, is Rivoli Construction. They'll be back next week also on Route 28 from starting at Seaview and moving east. This will be a 1-lane closure, so there will be a detour headed down Seaview to South Shore and back up Pine Grove for 1 lane. The other lane will continue. The lane that's going west will continue towards Barnstable, will continue on Route 28. They'll also have a crew on South Shore Drive near Seaview, headed towards the Red Jacket, and then another crew will come in later in the month or in October. So we just wanted to show the progress of those contracts. The blue lines are part of the contract. The green is what's been completed. So ours contract is almost 50% complete in terms of pipeline. They all have pumps. They both have pump stations as well, which is not included. And the Rivoli contract is about a quarter of the way through. So we're moving forward. And then these stars just show where all the work is going to be starting next week or the week after. So there's going to be a lot going on in the next couple of weeks and throughout as long as we can into the winter. Just an update on contracts 4 and 5. Contract 4 is this small project here at the Bass River Bridge. Robert Auer is a little bit on that and will be awarded that project as well. And then 5 and 6 are the other half of Route 28. We got accepted bids for contract 6 yesterday, and contract 5 will be accepted next week, and we hope to get those under construction in January or around January of 2025. So again, that'll be a lot of crews on Route 28 all at the same time. So how can you find out more? The Yarmouth Police have been exceptionally helpful with the detours and getting the information out about what the detours are. So if you follow them on Facebook, that's the best way to learn what the detours are on any given day. And then also we've been communicating with Mary Vilbon at the Chamber, and I know she's sending out the information that we receive and get to her about detours and look-aheads for both projects. So if you're not on Mary's list, get yourself on that as well. And the Chamber, which if Mary wants to speak more about this, she can, but they're working on a campaign to get people to know about sewer, why we're doing it, and how important it is. So it'll be on both the radio, and there'll be signs along Route 28 on the light posts. Other ways to find out both Robert Auer and Rivoli's look-aheads are on our town website. So you can look at those. They kind of show you where they're going to be in the next 3 weeks, heading up from where we're at. So you can see where they're going to be at and kind of get an idea of what to tell your customers. And the other thing is we do update Waze on a daily basis with all the road closures. So if you tell your customers to use Waze, that will help them at least get generally to the area. It is a little bit tricky if you're on one side or the other of the construction to know exactly which way to go. But they'll just have to follow the detours or ask the police detail, which way to go if they're not sure what to do. And anytime you can get that information out to your customers before they come would be helpful as well. And we're trying to emphasize on everything that we do that all businesses are open during construction. You can always get there. It just might be a different route than you're used to. And that's all we have.
One of the things I should have mentioned before we open up for questions is in the very beginning I talked about kind of the impacts and constraints that we're working under, and one of those is along Route 28 we need a permit to do the work from Mass DOT. And the Mass DOT permit, as it's currently written, and it'll cover all of these contracts. Right now it's more pertinent to contracts 2 and 3 that we're working, but it'll be impactful to contracts 4, 5, and 6 as well, is they've given us very small windows in which to work. Obviously, we can't work between Memorial Day and Labor Day. We want to not have a significant impact on that tourist and that busy season. And that's written right into their permit for all state projects or all projects that impact state roadways. But the other window is they say we can't work between November 15th and April 1st. So that's a period of time that we'd like to get as much done as possible. We don't have that same constraint on town roads, but on the state roads, that's the constraints they've put us under. We're working currently to extend that period as much as they will allow us to work after November 15th and before April 1st. But I just wanted to mention that there's 2 very narrow windows, one in the fall construction season and one in the spring construction season, in which to get this work done on Route 28. And after this first phase is done, we'll be done on Route 28. So we won't have those state constraints going forward. But at least as it is right now, we have a pretty significant time constraint to try to fit all this work into. So that's one of the challenges that we have. And because the work was allowed after Memorial Day, after Labor Day, we did ask both contractors if they could delay slightly to extend that summer season, and they both have agreed to start September 16th. So that's a great kudos to them that they've been able to kind of even crunch their schedule even more in order to try to accommodate us. And I just wanted to throw that out there because that came up in the couple of discussions I've had previously, and it's a significant constraint we're trying to work around. But with that said, I'd also like to have Abby mention a couple of things more specifically about the Robert B. Auer construction as it relates to the areas that they're working. I think that's probably what impacts most people in this room.
I was comfortable until they gave me a microphone. All right, so hi everybody, my name's Abby. I'm the project manager for Robert B. Auer Company. We are currently working on contract 2, which is the yellow area. If anybody, your businesses that are in that specific zone, if you have any particular questions about your business or the detours surrounding your business or how to get your customers there, I'd be more than happy to speak with you one-on-one, to try and accommodate everything we can. The one thing I would like to say is every morning when we start, we have like a pre-game huddle where Mike, who's the site superintendent, will talk with these crews. We talk about where we are, what businesses we're near, and we talk to the police details so that they understand exactly where we are so that we can get your customer to you. We'll never close the road so that your customer can't get to you. They might just have to pause for a second and go around, or pause for a second and we'll help them walk to your business. But we will never close the business. The other thing I would like to mention is before we start and we're approaching what we call zones, you will see somebody come with a notice. It's a general notice on, hey, we're coming, this is where we're going, and these are the things that you might encounter. So that's kind of like your first clue, like, okay, now it's starting to progress towards me. We progress in a very linear fashion, so you'll be able to see us kind of march down the road approaching you. And like Jeff said, sometimes we have to stop because we're under certain constraints. Unfortunately, that means eventually we will be back. The other thing I would like to mention is currently right now we're installing the sewer main, which is the collection system. Once we're done with the mainline pipe installation, you'll see us come back again, and that's when we'll install your sewer stub, which is what you will connect to. And then as part of this project, you're also getting some water improvements, which are kind of desperately needed. So you'll see us cross again when we're bringing the water main, and then you'll get a new water stub in the street. The idea behind that is once we leave, you really shouldn't see any major construction, because at that point, your sewer's done, you have new water in the street. The only thing the town really can't control is the gas. But other than that, everything else is done. So it'll be what I consider 4 touch points, but then once we leave, you'll have a new paved road, and it'll look gorgeous. I do have some maps up here that kind of depict like what we've accomplished so far and where we're going next. And like I said, I'm happy to give anybody my email address, and we can talk to you one-on-one about like your case, or if you need help identifying where you want your sewer stub located. We're here every day. I'm in the office every day. Mike is in the field every day. So does anybody have any specific questions for me? Okay.
Jim Banky from the Green Spot Garden Center. My question is, you just said, we'll have new water and we'll have new sewer when you're done. Mm-hmm. What exactly does that mean? Because you're not going to be done this fall. You're coming back in the spring. I was told you're coming back in the spring in front of all of our businesses again to do something again. So is that true?
Yes, we will be back in the spring. My hope is that in the spring it will be pavement. When we do installation, we tend to work in what I consider zones, right? So last year you saw a lot of activity by the set of lights and by McDonald's, and that's because we installed the sewer, and then we stopped at a point, we backed up and we did the water so that we were ending at the same spot. So the idea, we try to accomplish all the major activities when we're there and the road's dug up once, and then we come back and pave. That's the idea. Now, as Jeff said earlier, we have some pretty tight time constraints according to Mass DOT. We have already submitted a request for a waiver. That doesn't mean they're going to give it to us, right? So they could come back and say, hard stop November, and then that really shrinks our ability to try and accomplish as much as we want to this season.
So you're going to try this fall to do the water pipe and the sewer pipe in the fall? Okay.
That's what I'm going to try.
Super.
It really does depend, like I said, on what Mass Highway says and what the weather does.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And what I will add is they've made great progress. As I think we just showed some brief information about how far they've gotten with all the pipe work. It's been significant, and frankly, I'm pretty impressed with how quickly they've gotten done what they needed to so far.
Hi, my name's Jeff Canello from Bass River Realty, Skull Island Adventure Golf. Back maybe in the fall or in the spring, we were sent a form to fill out for sewer connections and what's needed on the property. Well, we sent that back for the sewer connections, and what we got back is we only have 3 connections on our property, and our property is quite large. We had sent out for more connections than that. So who do I talk to about the connections for our property to handle present and future development?
Yeah, you should direct those to me and Lori. We will work through what that looks like. Generally speaking, the design plans call for 1 connection per property, but if you have some future plans that are going to be significantly impacting that and you need additional connections, let us know so we can work with Jason and direct the contractor as appropriate.
Because that was already sent into you, because we have multiple pieces of property on that, multiple. We got a rear lake house, we have the plaza, we have the restaurant, we have Papagino's, we have Skull Island. So I need to contact you and go over that for more connections shown
Yes, absolutely.
on this plan. Okay, thank you.
Tom has been in touch with me.
Yes. Okay. So you're in correspondence with Tom. So if you just keep that up, then we can take that further. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Lori would be a better contact, but either one of us are fine.
So as long as she's in contact with Tom, that's great. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? We're going to hang out after this presentation in case you want to look or have specific questions about direction of customer or employee access to your property. As Abby had mentioned, you'll always have access. It just is going to change throughout construction, and that's the thing we want to be very clear about. But any other questions? Mary?
I would just like to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. My name is Mary Vilan. I'm the president and CEO of the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce. Many of you may or may not be members of the chamber, but we are here to advocate for you, to keep the communication flow going. So if you're not a member, please call our office, ask the questions, we'll direct you to the town and the right people. And we have created a distribution list specifically for this project. So if you're not on our membership list or that distribution list now, just come and talk to me, call the office, we'll get you on that list right away.
Bob?
Good morning, everyone. I wanted to introduce myself as well. I'm Bob Rittenauer, your town administrator here. I really want to thank the Chamber for, and thank Mary Vilmon personally, bringing everyone together here and getting out all of the invitations. It really means a lot to us. I want to thank the DPW team as well as Robert B. Auer, our whole communications staff. We are 100% committed to this project, and I mean, it really deserves to be said that this is truly a historic project for our community. We realize what we're biting off here. I mean, this is generational. It's taken us 75 years to get to this point, and we're at this point, and the benefits to our community in the long run, we feel is really setting us up for a prosperous future, and that without projects like this, we really can't move forward into the next generation and what we hand our kids in terms of the environment, in terms of the ability to do business, in terms of the future growth of this town. It's really going to be incredible. But having said that, I think what's more important for today, I just want everyone in this room to realize we understand completely what a pain this project is, the inconvenience that we're going through, especially on the way our community's configured with Route 28 really being, it's the backbone of the town. Of course, it's the backbone of the future wastewater system, the backbone of everything that we do. And we value the commerce and the business that goes on there, the residences, just the convenience of traversing through the community. So we don't take this lightly. And the major point I want to make is we don't view this as something that the town is doing, and we're doing it, to you guys. This is something that we're doing together as a community. We're trying to do the best we can. This is a project that really transcends what we can, as you see with we've got these great companies in here assisting us. There's a lot of privatization going on. The town has taken, I think, a really strong role in trying to manage it together with the business community. But it's something that really is going to take all of us to get done. And I just want you to know, we know, I mean, we're out there on Route 28 every single day. What an inconvenience this is. And I want to thank everybody for just putting up with us, putting up with this project. There's a lot of, I mean, we meet daily to try to make adjustments, figure out better ways to do things, and we really are concerned about working with everyone together. So thank you for being here. This is not a one-off, this meeting. What we're trying to do is just keep the lines of communication open, right, with organizations like the Chamber, but more importantly with individuals, individual businesses, homeowners, everyone. So if an issue comes up that's a concern, you can come to me, you can come to Jeff, you can come to Lori, talk to Mary. We're all talking together, and thank you for putting up with this. Like Jeff said, if we can get this backbone done, get Route 28 cleaned out, and then start going into the neighborhoods to remove these thousands of septic systems, which is just not the way to go. It's going to be great, but we're going to have to live through this, and so just thanks for putting up with us. And I see all these businesses, I know they've been impacted, and it really hurts us, so just thanks for being here.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, my name's Justin Ingold, and I run the Surf Comer Hotel down on South Shore Drive. And the question I have is, once the construction's moved through, and the stubs are in place, we'll need to run some pipes into the bottom of our buildings. We'll have 2 of them. Once these stubs are in place, how soon will we be able to do the work on our end to connect, even if the sewer plant's not up and running? We've been looking at redoing our parking lot for a little while now, and we just don't want to do all that if we have to tear it all up again. So, yeah, that's the question. Once the subs are in place, are we able to connect to it when we would like to, or do we need to wait a while?
Oh, that's a good question. As Lori had mentioned before, we really can't have connections until after the plant is done sometime in, we're estimating 2027, and then you'll have approximately 2 years to connect. But if there's someone in a situation like yours where you'd like to do some of the work in advance, you need to talk with Lori and myself and submit plans in advance that we can work with you on. There might be an opportunity to put in some dry pipes, if you will, and then make the ultimate connection when you're allowed to in 27 or 28. But there might be some opportunities to do things in advance. I actually encourage people that, even in future phases, if you're having to upgrade your septic system or if you're thinking about a new construction situation, think about that sewer connection in your front yard, or at least try to anticipate some of those things so you can minimize what that looks like when you ultimately have to connect. So you're talking about something very similar, and we'll work with you to see what that looks like and how much you can actually do now before you officially connect in the future.
Sure. Just to follow up. So just to get an idea of what the stub connections would look like, we'd be privately running pipes through the parking lot out toward the street. And then where the point of connection happens, is that something that's done privately on our end as well, or does the town or utility need to be involved in the however many, the foot or 2 feet or whatever it is between our private pipes and the town pipes?
We're taking that sewer stub as far as we can, right to the property line, if you will. So all of those future costs will be part of the sewer connection that you'll have to implement in the future. But typically for commercial, which I think most of you are probably here, there'll be a manhole at that property connection. So it's usually that's the location where we can maybe have some future work to be anticipated, is not physically connecting to the system yet, but it might be something to do with that manhole connection at the street.
Okay. Great, thank you.
As far as during construction, I know the town's got a buffer in, all along 28. For the bigger lots and parking lots, how much are we required for construction? I know they've made a mess, down 28, especially up by Pirates Cove and stuff. So when they're down in front of me, how much of my property am I responsible to give to the construction area for the work,
Sure, that's a
because I got big parking lots and stuff, so am I required to leave 40 feet of the parking lot for them to construction, or
That's a
and
good
how much?
question.
And it's all manicured out front, especially in front of my mini golf. I don't want that all torn up, and there's a lot of underground utilities and stuff like that out front. So I'm really concerned about when they get in front of me and what's going to happen.
Right, absolutely. So the contractors are only allowed to use the road right-of-way. So it really depends. In some cases, that road right-of-way might be only 10 feet off of the road, but they're not allowed to use any of your private property unless they've come out and made some kind of coordination with you. And I will tell you that both the contractors that are currently working have coordinated with property owners in some limited areas, but they're really, without that coordination, they're only allowed to use the area within the layout. And if you have any concerns after they've used that area within the layout about restoration, reach out to Lori and myself, and we will facilitate that. One of the things we have in dealing with contractors is we have what they call retainage. We hold back a certain amount of money at the end of the project to make sure everyone's happy with the way that things were completed, restored, before we give that out to them. So I won't say too much about that with contractors in the room here, but we do have some leverage with regards to making sure restoration happens properly.
So if they need more room, we'll be contacted and work with the contractor to provide the room they need and have a heads up on it.
Correct. And like I said, I know that both contractors have worked with property owners and businesses to get a little bit more room. They do need room, as you can see out there, with pipes and staging and of equipment that all take space, but they need to coordinate with you in order to use your property.
Right, right. Well, I expect it because I get large parking lots, so I kind of expect when they come in front of me, they're going to be wanting a little more room to do the work. So, okay, thank you.
But they need to coordinate with you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Hello everyone, my name is Pedro. I'm owner of Barbody Barbershop. So my question is, do you guys already have an idea how long it's gonna take in front of the business?
I think I'd let Abby elaborate on this if she can, but it's really going to depend on the amount of frontage. In some cases, there's a very large frontage, so they may be in front of your property for a number of days. In other cases with a very narrow frontage, they could probably be, and if it's a shallow pipe, they could probably be by your property relatively quickly, a day or two. And they'll always make sure that you have access from one direction or the other. We just went through this on Old Main Street with the fire department. They needed to have, access at all times. So there was a period of time where they, had access from the east, and then it was from the west. And so there will be some of that happens when they come by your property. Really depends on the individual circumstances about the depth of pipe and the length of your frontage of how long that process will take. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, that's about it. And if you do, like I said, if you have like property specific questions, like about your store, about hotel, restaurant, whatever, I will answer them to the best of my ability.
Any other questions? Bob?
Good morning, and thank you very much for putting this on. We all appreciate it very much. As you know, I've been waiting for sewer for a long time, and it's going to take a little while to get there. My question pertains to the notice of project change that we have going on. It says in the notice of project change that after the loop in phase 1 is done, there's a time that's going to have to be looked at by the DEP before we're ready to go to the next phase. Could you talk about that a little bit, please?
I can. So right now, and you've seen on many of these maps, we have it set in stone what that phase 1 looks like. But DEP has asked us to address all 3 of those watersheds that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. And we've done some preliminary analysis to show that we're addressing Lewis Bay and Parkers River on the appropriate schedule that the DEP has set. But we are not doing that for the Bass River. So we need to shift some of our focus in future phases to that watershed to make sure we're removing the appropriate amount of nitrogen in the schedule that they're requiring. So there will be some adjustments in future phases. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but there is a phase map right next to Paul. As it is anticipated today, what phases 2, 3, 4, 5 look like. But I can tell you that we'll be working with the Water Resource Advisory Committee and our sewer commissioners to potentially reevaluate some of those phases to make sure that we're appropriately addressing all of the watersheds. And right now we know that we need to do more in the Bass River.
So when the connection is finally made through phase 1, 28, going down Forest, Winslow to the plant, right, and that loop is made, is there a time period that all needs to be checked and we have to wait on the DEP for the final go-ahead for the next phase?
The short answer is yes. We're all set with phase 1 again, so I think most of you are probably in phase 1. So once the pipes are in the ground and the treatment plant's up and been signed off on, we can have connections in that. But we will have to do some further analysis of future phases, including phase 2.
Thank you very much. Just another question. If there was a way to modify the existing drawings now, I mean, you guys have the ability for us to go and look at what's proposed for stub layout in front of our property. If there was some modifications to that, what's the process and how long does that take for us to coordinate to make sure we get the right information?
Yeah, in your particular case, make sure you continue to coordinate with Lori. We need to have that happen before the contractor comes by your property and sets those stub locations. But yes, we're committed to making sure we work with the property owners and they get the appropriate stubs in the right location.
The Rivoli construction coming down 28, I'm assuming that he's going to be picking up where he left off and working east, or is he starting at Long Pond and then going to work west to meet up where he left off? Thank you.
Yeah, a little different than that. I can maybe show do we have that one slide? Yes, I don't know if you can see this here, but essentially they're going to be starting close to where they left off. But they left off right around or just to the east of Neptune Lane. They're actually going to start at the intersection with Seaview and 28 and work to the east. So they're actually going to leave a little section where there's not an easy detour until later. Hopefully when there's less traffic and maybe more wintertime conditions. That again is going to depend on what DOT allows us to do, because that's all along Route 28. But they're going to start at that star location and work to the east, heading towards you.
The stub diameters, are those pretty much standard, or is there an optimal size that we could, like most of them are probably 6-inch, but you can go, what's the 8, 10, 12? Is there an area where you can't go any higher? Or?
Well, we'll work with the engineers, the designers, to determine what the appropriate size of the stub is, and that's based upon your flows or anticipated flows. Most everyone has a 6-inch stub that is designed to take quite a bit of flow into that. In some cases where there's a large property or significant future development anticipated, we've gone up to 8-inch. I think there's a couple locations that have been specified as 8-inch. And beyond that, you'd have to have a pretty massive future anticipated flow to get bigger than the 8-inch, but it's possible. So we'll work with you in your future plans to make sure you got the right size.
Not to take up all the time, but the question really relates to how it all works. Is the trunk line going down 28 is not gravity? Is that suction? Is it vacuum? How does that all grab our material from our property to the street and then down to the pumping station? I'm assuming that some of these property owners are going to have pumps to pump it out to the street. I'm not sure. Could you clarify that?
Sure, that's a great question. Everything we're doing in phase one is a gravity connection, and we're committed to trying to maximize the amount of gravity connections even in future phases. We know there's challenges with individual grinder pumps or other technologies. Vacuum technology is one that we're steering away from because of the challenges with that. But there will be some low-lying areas or some very flat areas or high groundwater areas where there's likely to be the need for a different type of technology like a grinder pump, but that's not within phase one. As of right now, phase one are all gravity connections. Because of that, gravity connections are great, but they mean that they're big pipes and they're very deep in the ground. And because of that, that's why we have as significant of an impact as we have right now, is because it's a slow process. That's actually one of the benefits of some of the other technologies. They go in much quicker, shallower, but this backbone of the system we feel is very critical for that to be a gravity system.
So you think that maybe 80% of the businesses there now are going to be fed by the gravity and they're not going to be able to have that expense of a pump?
Correct. Yeah, probably more than that. I think the design plans have tried to anticipate the elevation of everybody's septic system. There might be those outliers where some pump is necessary, but for the most part, we've looked at the elevations of everyone's septic system. The design team has, CDM Smith that designed the system, and has tried to size that and position that so it can be connected by gravity.
And my last question, thank you all for your patience. Would you be having another one of these meetings, and if so, when?
Well, we're happy to answer questions anytime, but we're looking at these types of meetings at the beginning of significant construction seasons. We're hoping to get as much done this next construction season as possible, so there'll be very little for the next, but that's still to be determined. So if there's another significant construction period in the spring, we'll do one before that period. But again, we're hoping to get most of this done through the winter time, but we'll have to have meetings for this for other contracts. But still 4, 5, and 6, those 3 contracts still haven't begun yet. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Just one question. What is the reasoning behind the state stopping at November 15th? Is it a weather or freeze? Why can't they extend it
Right. It's hard for me to defend the state
Yeah, right.
decisions, but
I just didn't
I will
know
try
what
to in this particular case.
the reasoning might
It's
be.
because of snow and ice. They want to have Route 28, which they're responsible for with snow and ice removal, to be unobstructed. So if the weather continues to be great, as it has been recently, or the last few winters that we've had very mild winters, we're quite confident we'll be able to work well within that season, at least to the beginning of the year. It can, even in mild years, be difficult to work in February and January and that time frame. So, there's less chance that we would grant construction in that period, but we're going to try to stretch that construction period as long as they'll allow.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks. Hi, my name is Will Rubenstein. I'm the co-owner of Camp Wingate Kirkland, overnight and day camp in Yarmouthport, Phase 8. I just want to talk for a bit about communication. I'm a young 51, so I actually have a laptop and, believe it or not, friends, a desktop computer. However, most people under the age of 40, I will argue, if they have a computer, it might be the thing they hold in their hand, or it might be a tablet, but it's probably not a desktop. It might be a laptop. So I'm a little bit challenged by the town website and the town formatting on my phone as, again, a young old person. It doesn't feel like the town website is optimized at all for mobile devices, especially when it comes to alerts. And I really appreciated knowing when the water main, went out on Forest Road. But man, I had a hard time reading it on my phone. Did anybody else? Anybody else? I'm the only person in this room that looked on the town website on their phone and said, I'm seeing something that's down the right side of my screen and nothing else. Okay, well, if I'm farting in the wind, I apologize. But what I will say is there's a huge opportunity for our town website, like many other town websites on the Cape, to become a mobilely optimized website, especially when it comes to alerts. So I'm asking, are there plans for that to happen? When are they going to happen? Again, I'm not asking for old people like me. I'm asking for people that don't have anything other than mobile devices and are just used to using their phone as their primary device to find out what is going on in the world. So I guess I'm asking either you, Jeff, or our new communications director, or you, sorry.
I'll let Paul answer that question.
When that's going to happen. Thank you.
I saw you were waving at me, but. No, that's a great question, and thank you. So we have just completed a contract, we're finalizing the final contract signatures to take and add a mobile app to our website, which what it actually does is it makes our website mobile accessible. So that should be coming within the next month or two, as quickly as we can get it to happen. But thank you for the question, because we are starting to advertise on that.
I think that's something you should tell people, that it is coming, because that, again, will at least eliminate any of the uncertainty about what the awkward interactions are like right now on a mobile device.
Surely. And the other thing is, too, is if you sign up for Notify Me, as well as Instagram, we do shoot out a lot of stuff about what's going on in the town.
Thank you.
But thank you for the question. It's a great one. Okay.
Any other questions? Well, as I mentioned before, town staff will hang out here. If you have specifics about your location, you'd like to know how the work crews for this next season or the detours that are being proposed might affect you, we're happy to answer those specific questions. But any last questions before we wrap up? All right, well, again, as Bob said, thank you for coming. We really appreciate this attendance. It's great to see. And again, any questions, we'll be here. Thank you.